What would you do if your Uber driver locked the doors and said we're not going where the app says? What would you do if you realized the person driving you isn't who they say they are? What would you do if you found out your driver has been watching you for months, learning your schedule, waiting for this exact moment? Tonight, I'm going to tell you 5 true stories that will change how you see every Uber ride for the rest of your life. These stories come from police reports, court documents, and victims who survived to tell their tale. Some of them barely made it out alive. Some are still looking over their shoulder, knowing their attacker is still out there, still hunting, still driving. Story 1: The driver who knew everything. Sarah Mitchell will never forget March 15, 2019. She was 23 years old, living in Boston, studying at the university. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was smart, careful, and always texted her roommate when she was coming home. But on this night, being careful wasn't enough. It was a Friday night like any other. Sarah had been at a club downtown celebrating her friend Rebecca's birthday. Nothing crazy happened at the party. She had a few drinks, but she wasn't drunk. She was thinking clearly. She knew better than to walk home alone at night. So at 1:30 in the morning, she did what millions of people do. She opened Uber on her phone. The app showed her a driver named Marcus. His picture looked friendly. He was wearing a button-up shirt in the photo, smiling like someone's dad. He had a 5-star rating with over 3,000 rides completed. His car was a silver Toyota Camry, only 2 minutes away. Everything looked perfect. Everything looked safe. Sarah watched the little car icon moving toward her on the map. She was standing under a streetlight where he could see her clearly. The silver Camry pulled up exactly where it should. The license plate matched what the app showed. Sarah even walked around to check the plate twice because her mom always told her to do that. Marcus got out of the car to open the door for her. This seemed polite, gentlemanly even. He was wearing the same kind of shirt from his profile photo. "You must be Sarah," he said with a warm smile. His voice was calm and professional. "Yes, that's me," Sarah said, checking her phone one more time to make sure everything matched. The app said Marcus. The car was right. The license plate was right. She got in the back seat and put on her seatbelt. The car was clean inside. It smelled like one of those pine tree air fresheners. Classical music was playing softly on the radio. It felt safe. It felt normal. Marcus adjusted his rearview mirror and started driving. "Heading home from Rebecca's birthday party?" Marcus asked casually. Sarah's whole body went cold. She hadn't told him anything about a birthday party. She hadn't mentioned Rebecca's name. She hadn't even said she was coming from a party. Her throat suddenly felt dry and tight. "How did you know that?" she asked, trying to keep her voice normal, trying not to sound scared. Marcus laughed like it was nothing. "Oh, I picked up your friend Katie about an hour ago. Small girl, blonde hair, was wearing a red dress. She mentioned you guys were celebrating Rebecca's birthday. She said you might need a ride later. Small world, right?" Sarah remembered Katie leaving early because she had to work in the morning. Katie was wearing a red dress. This made sense. Sarah's muscles relaxed a little bit. Maybe she was just being paranoid. Maybe Marcus just had a good memory for passengers. They drove for a few more minutes. Marcus seemed focused on the road. Then he glanced at her in the mirror and said, "So you're studying psychology at Boston University, right? 3rd year? That must be really interesting." The cold feeling came back worse than before. Sarah felt like ice water was running through her veins. Katie didn't know what Sarah was studying. They were old friends from high school who had just reconnected recently. They hadn't talked about college majors. There was no way Katie told him that. "Actually, I'm studying business," Sarah lied, her voice shaking a little. She tried to make it sound casual, but her hand was already moving to her phone. "No, Marcus said, and his voice was different now. Not friendly anymore, more insistent. "You're definitely studying psychology. You live at 42 Elm Street, apartment 3B. You have a cat named Whiskers. Your boyfriend David is out of town this weekend visiting his parents in Connecticut. Sarah's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Her hands were shaking as she tried to unlock her phone. This was wrong. This was so wrong. How did he know all of this? How did he know about David? How did he know about her cat? She looked at her phone screen. No signal. The bars were completely gone, but they were in the middle of the city. There were cell towers everywhere. This didn't make sense. Don't bother with your phone, Marcus said calmly, like they were discussing the weather. I have a signal jammer plugged into the cigarette lighter. They're really easy to buy online. About $50 on certain websites. Blocks all cell signals within 20 feet. Tears started forming in Sarah's eyes. Her voice came out as barely a whisper. What do you want? I don't have much money. You can take my wallet. Just please let me go. Marcus didn't answer right away. He just kept driving. But Sarah noticed something that made her stomach drop. He wasn't following the blue line on the GPS. They weren't heading toward her apartment. They were going the wrong direction, toward the industrial district where all the old warehouses were. Please, Sarah begged, her voice cracking. Please just let me out here. I won't tell anyone. I promise. I'll say the ride was fine. I'll give you 5 stars. Marcus laughed again, but it wasn't a warm laugh anymore. It was cold and made Sarah's skin crawl. Oh, Sarah. Sweet, beautiful Sarah. I've been watching you for so long. Do you know that? Every Tuesday and Thursday, you get an Uber to campus at exactly 8:15 a.m. Every Friday night, you go out with your friends to the same 3 bars. You always request UberX. Never pool because you don't like sharing rides with strangers. Sarah's hand instinctively went to her neck where her silver necklace was, the one her grandmother gave her before she died. Marcus noticed the movement in his mirror. You always wear that silver necklace, the one with the little heart charm. Your grandmother gave it to you when you were 16. You never take it off, not even to shower. Sarah was crying now, tears streaming down her face. How long have you been following me? Following is such an ugly word, Marcus said. I prefer to think of it as learning about you, getting to know you. I've been driving in circles around your usual pickup spots for 3 weeks now, declining other rides, losing money, but I knew eventually you'd request a ride at just the right time when I was the closest driver. The algorithm had to match us eventually, and tonight, finally, it did. The car turned down a dark street with no streetlights. The buildings here were all abandoned warehouses with broken windows. No other cars, no people, no help. The real Marcus is taking a nap, he continued, his voice casual like he was telling her about his day. I borrowed his car and his phone. He was very understanding once I explained the situation. Well, once the drugs kicked in, he didn't have much choice. Sarah's mind was racing, trying to think of what to do. Her father was a police officer. He had taught her things. Never go to a second location. Fight back. Make noise. Do anything but comply. Her hand found the small can of pepper spray on her keychain. Her dad made her promise to always carry it. She held it tight, keeping it hidden. The car slowed down as they approached a warehouse. The headlights lit up a rusty door hanging off its hinges. Marcus put the car in park but left it running. We're here, he said, turning around to face her for the first time since she got in. That's when Sarah acted. She sprayed the pepper spray directly into his eyes and kept spraying. Marcus screamed, his hands flying to his face. The car filled with the chemical smell. Sarah tried the door handle. Locked. Child locks were on. She kept spraying even as Marcus clawed at his eyes, screaming curses at her. The pepper spray was filling the small space of the car. Both of them were coughing and choking now. Marcus was trying to grab her but he couldn't see. His hands were swinging wildly. Sarah kicked the back of his seat as hard as she could. over and over, screaming at the top of her lungs. Maybe someone would hear. Maybe someone would help. Then she remembered something her dad taught her about car windows. They're weakest at the corners. She grabbed her keys, holding them tight in her fist with the points sticking out between her fingers. She hit the corner of the window as hard as she could. Nothing. She hit it again. A small crack. Again. The crack spread. Again and again until finally the window shattered. Glass cut her hands and arms as she pushed the broken pieces out of the way. She heard Marcus trying to open his door to get out and come around. Sarah pushed herself through the broken window. Feeling glass slice her legs, she hit the ground hard, rolled, and started running. Behind her, she could hear Marcus screaming her name. A car door slammed. Footsteps on gravel. He was following her even though he could barely see. Sarah ran harder than she had ever run in her life. Her lungs burned like fire. Her legs felt like jelly. Glass was still stuck in her skin, and blood was running down her arms. But she kept running. She saw lights ahead, a gas station that was still open. She burst through the door, covered in blood, screaming for help. The man behind the counter immediately called 911. The police found the car abandoned 2 blocks from the warehouse. Inside, they found duct tape, zip ties, a knife, and something that still gives Sarah nightmares. Photos of her. Dozens and dozens of photos. At her apartment building, at school, at the gym, getting into other Ubers. Some were taken from inside her apartment through her windows. Some were so recent they were from earlier that same day. They never found the man who said he was Marcus. The real Marcus was found in his apartment, unconscious from drugs but alive. Someone had stolen his car, his phone, and used them to accept Sarah's ride. Sarah survived because she fought back, because she trusted her instincts when something felt wrong, because she was prepared. But she never took another Uber again. She bought a car the next week, even though she couldn't really afford it. She moved to a new apartment, changed her phone number, changed her daily routine, but she still feels him watching. Every time she walks to her car, she checks the back seat. Every time a stranger knows her name, her heart stops. The police told her she was lucky. They told her most people who get taken to a second location don't come back. They told her that whoever this man was, he had probably done this before and would probably do it again. Sarah doesn't feel lucky. She feels hunted, because somewhere out there, a man who knows everything about her is still free, still driving, still hunting. And she knows that one day, he might try to finish what he started. Story 2: The Last Passenger. James Chin had been driving Uber in Seattle for 2 years. He was 41 years old, used to work as a software engineer before his company downsized. Driving helped pay the bills while he looked for another tech job. He was good at it too. 5,000 completed rides. 4.9-star rating. He kept water bottles in the door pockets, phone chargers for every type of phone, and always helped people with their luggage. October 31st, 2020, Halloween night. It had been raining all day. That heavy Seattle rain that sounds like drums on your car roof. The city was full of people in costumes going to parties. Surge pricing was 3 times normal rates. James had already made $300 and it wasn't even midnight yet. At 11:47 p.m., his phone pinged with a new ride request. The pickup location made him pause. Lakeview Cemetery. Who requests an Uber from a cemetery at almost midnight on Halloween? The pickup pin was actually inside the cemetery grounds, past the main gates. James almost declined it. Something felt weird about it. But the fare showed $78 for a ride to Tacoma. That was really good money. The passenger's name was just listed as M with no profile picture, but they had a 5.0 rating, so James accepted. He drove to the cemetery. The main gates were closed and locked with a heavy chain, which made sense since cemeteries close at sunset, but the GPS pin showed the passenger was somehow inside. about 100 yards past the gate. James sent a message through the app. "Hi, I'm here at the main gate. It appears to be closed. Can you come to the entrance?" No response. James waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes passed. He was about to cancel the ride when he saw something that made his breath catch. Someone was walking through the cemetery toward the gate, a woman in a long white dress. Her black hair hung down to her waist, wet and stringy from the rain. She wasn't wearing a coat, no umbrella, just walking slowly through the rain between the headstones like she had all the time in the world. She reached the gate and stood there on the other side of the bars, just staring at James's car, not waving, not smiling, just staring. James rolled down his window. "Are you He called out. The woman nodded slowly, like her head was heavy. "The gate's locked," James said. "Can you climb over or go around?" The woman placed one pale hand on the iron gate. There was a clicking sound, metal on metal. The chain fell away and the gate swung open with a long, slow creak. Every instinct James had was screaming at him to drive away. The gate had been locked. He had seen the chain, but now it was open and the woman was walking toward his car, her white dress dragging in the mud. But James needed the money. Rent was due in 3 days. His daughter needed new school supplies. $78 was $78. The woman got into the back seat. She was soaking wet. Water immediately started pooling on his leather seats. But she didn't apologize or even seem to notice. She smelled strange too, like wet earth and something else. Something sweet and rotten. "Tacoma?" James asked, looking at her in the rearview mirror. She nodded again, that same slow nod. James started driving. The woman didn't look at her phone like most passengers. She didn't make small talk. She just sat there, dripping, staring straight ahead at nothing. Water ran from her hair down her face, but she didn't wipe it away. After 10 minutes of silence, James couldn't stand it anymore. He tried to make conversation. "Crazy night to be in a cemetery. Huh, Halloween and all. Were you visiting someone?" The woman's head turned toward the mirror. Her eyes met his and James felt his blood turn to ice. Her eyes were completely black. Not dark brown. Not dilated pupils. Black from edge to edge like pools of oil. "I was visiting someone," she said, and her voice was wrong. It sounded like two people talking at once, slightly out of sync. "My daughter." "Oh," James said, his hands tightening on the steering wheel. "I'm sorry for your loss." The woman tilted her head to the side. Too far, like her neck was broken. "Loss? She's not lost. She's right here with me." James glanced in the mirror again. The woman was alone in the back seat. There was nobody else there. "Your daughter's with you?" he asked, trying to keep his voice normal. "She's always with me, ever since the accident. She loves car rides. Don't you, sweetie?" The woman was talking to the empty seat beside her, smiling at nothing. The temperature in the car suddenly dropped. James could see his breath coming out in little white puffs. The windows started fogging up even though the defroster was on full blast. His hands were shaking from the cold. "Can you see her?" the woman asked. "She's sitting right next to me. She thinks you have a nice car. She wants to know if she can play with the radio." Before James could answer, the radio turned on by itself. Static filled the car, loud and harsh. Then through the static, he heard something that made his whole body go rigid. A child's giggle. James looked in the mirror. The woman was still alone, but the seat next to her was wet now too, like someone else was sitting there, and there were small handprints appearing on the foggy window from the inside. Child-sized handprints. "She wants to know if you have any children," the woman said. "No." James lied immediately. He had an 8-year-old daughter named Lily, but something deep in his brain told him not to share that information. Some primitive instinct that said protect your child. Don't let this thing know about her. That's too bad, the woman said sadly. Emily gets so lonely. She hasn't had anyone to play with in such a long time. Not since the accident. The giggling came again, louder this time, and it seemed to move around the car, first from the back seat, then from right next to James's ear, then from under his seat. The radio started changing stations on its own, flipping through channels rapid fire, and on each station for just a split second, he could hear the same child's voice saying, "Play with me." "Stop the car," James said, his voice cracking. "I need you to get out." "But we're not there yet," the woman said calmly. "I don't care. Get out, now." The woman smiled, and her teeth were black. "Every single one of them. You can't make us leave. Emily doesn't want to go, do you, sweetie?" The giggling turned into crying, loud, piercing crying that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The windows started cracking, spider web fractures spreading across the glass. The radio volume went to maximum, the crying so loud James thought his ears would burst. James slammed on the brakes and the car skidded to a stop on the shoulder of the highway. "Get out! Get out now!" The woman didn't move. "You're scaring Emily. She doesn't like it when people yell." The crying got louder and louder. James's nose started bleeding. His ears were ringing. He fumbled for his phone to call 911, but it was completely dead. The screen wouldn't even turn on. Then the woman leaned forward, putting her face right next to James's ear. Her breath was cold and smelled like grave dirt. "Emily died in a car accident," she whispered. "October 31st, 2018. 2 years ago tonight, a drunk driver hit us head-on. The impact sent Emily through the windshield. It took her head clean off. I found it 20 feet from the car, her little face still perfect, eyes still blinking, mouth still moving like she was trying to talk to me." James was sobbing now, tears and blood running down his face. "I held her head in my lap while we waited for the ambulance," the woman continued. "She lived for 7 more minutes. 7 minutes of her looking up at me, trying to speak, trying to cry but having no lungs to cry with. Can you imagine that? A mother holding her daughter's severed head, watching the light fade from her eyes? Please," James begged, "please just go." "I killed myself 2 weeks later," the woman said. "Pills. Lots of pills. But Emily brought me back. She was lonely, you see. She wanted her mommy. So now we're together forever. And we ride. Every Halloween night, we ride. Looking for him." "Looking for who?" James asked. "The drunk driver. He was never caught. Hit and run. But Emily remembers his face. She'll know him when she sees him. And when we find him," the woman smiled wider, her mouth opening too far, showing too many teeth, "we'll take him with us. Forever." James turned around to face her, to beg her to leave, but the back seat was empty, completely dry, no sign anyone had ever been there. His phone buzzed. It was working again, a notification from Uber, "Your passenger canceled the ride." James sat there shaking for 10 minutes before he could drive again. He went home and hugged his daughter so tight she complained. He never told his wife what happened. He never told anyone. But he did research. He found the news article, October 31st, 2018. 7-year-old Emily Patterson, killed in a hit-and-run on Highway 99. The driver was never found. Her mother, Margaret Patterson, committed suicide 2 weeks later. Overdose. The article included a photo. It was the same woman who had been in his car, wearing the same white dress she was buried in. James stopped driving for Uber that night. He got a regular job at a warehouse. Less money but worth it. But sometimes, late at night, he still hears giggling from his back seat, still sees small handprints on his windows, and every Halloween, his car doors lock by themselves and the radio turns on, cycling through static until he hears that voice, "Play with me." He never drives on Halloween now. Never. And if you're smart, neither will you. Story 3. The driver who collected trophies. Jennifer Rodriguez had wanted to be a nurse since she was a little girl. Now, at 28, she was living her dream, working the night shift at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. It was hard work, exhausting work, but she loved it. She loved helping people, loved being there for them in their darkest moments. August 14, 2021. Jennifer had just finished a 13-hour shift. A trauma patient had come in, a bad car accident, and she'd stayed late to help. Her feet hurt, her back hurt, and all she wanted was to get home, take a hot shower, and sleep until her next shift. Her car had been in the shop for a week, transmission problems that cost more to fix than she could afford right now. So she'd been taking Ubers to and from work. It was expensive but safer than walking through downtown Miami at 7 in the morning. She requested a ride and watched the little car approach on the app. The driver was a woman, which made Jennifer feel safer. Anna, according to the profile, mid-30s with a friendly face in her photo. 4.8 rating. The car was a red Honda Civic. When Anna pulled up, Jennifer practically collapsed into the back seat. She was so tired she could barely keep her eyes open. "Long night?" Anna asked, looking at Jennifer's scrubs in the mirror. "The longest," Jennifer replied, her eyes already closing. 13 hours on my feet. "You poor thing," Anna said sympathetically. "You look exhausted. There's a pillow back there if you want to rest your head. I keep it for passengers who work long shifts like you." Jennifer felt around and found a small pillow wedged between the seats. It felt weird, lumpy and uneven, and it smelled strange, like chemicals, like the formaldehyde they used in the hospital morgue. But Jennifer was too tired to care. She put it behind her head and dozed off. She woke up when the car stopped moving, but something was wrong, very wrong. They weren't at her apartment building. They were in a parking garage. Dark, empty, concrete walls on all sides. No other cars, no people. "Where are we?" Jennifer asked, suddenly completely awake, adrenaline flooding her system. Anna turned around in her seat, and she was holding something in her hand, a syringe filled with clear liquid. "Don't worry," Anna said, her voice different now, cold and flat. "You won't feel a thing. You're a nurse. You know what propofol does." Jennifer's medical training kicked in immediately. Propofol, the drug that killed Michael Jackson, a powerful anesthetic that in high doses causes respiratory failure. The patient stops breathing and dies within minutes. Jennifer's hand went for the door handle, locked. She pulled harder. Nothing. Child locks were engaged. Anna lunged over the seat with the syringe. Jennifer caught her wrist just as the needle was inches from her neck. They struggled, Anna trying to push the needle down, Jennifer trying to push it away. Anna was on top, using her body weight, and Jennifer was still exhausted from her shift. The needle came closer. Jennifer could see the measurement marks on the syringe. 200 milligrams. That was enough to kill someone her size. Jennifer did something she learned in a self-defense class years ago. Instead of pushing against Anna, she suddenly went completely limp. Anna, who had been pushing hard, fell forward off balance. Jennifer brought her knee up hard into Anna's stomach. Anna gasped, her grip loosening. The syringe fell. Jennifer grabbed it and without thinking, plunged it into Anna's thigh, pushing the plunger all the way down. Anna's eyes went wide with panic. "No, no, no, the dose! I calculated it for your body weight. I'm smaller than you. That's too much for me." Anna started convulsing. Her breathing became shallow and rapid, then slower, then barely there at all. She collapsed half on the seat, half on Jennifer. Jennifer pushed her off and started kicking the window. Safety glasses strong but not unbreakable. She kicked again and again until it finally shattered. She squeezed through. cutting herself on the broken glass, and ran. She found a security guard 2 levels down. He called 911. The paramedics managed to save Anna's life, though she was in a coma for 3 days and had permanent brain damage from oxygen deprivation. When the police searched Anna's apartment, they found something that still makes Jennifer wake up screaming. Hair, human hair, dozens of ponytails and braids, each in a carefully labeled plastic bag. Each label had a date, a pickup location, and a name. 17 names total. The police ran the names. All 17 were women who had been reported missing over the past 2 years. All had last been seen getting into rideshare vehicles. All had disappeared without a trace. Anna had been picking them up using stolen driver accounts. She would drug them with the propofol, take them somewhere, and while they were unconscious, she would cut off their hair. All of it, down to the scalp. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what else they found in Anna's apartment. Pillows. Dozens of handmade pillows. And when forensics examined them, they found they were all stuffed with human hair. Different colors, different textures, all carefully woven together. The pillow Jennifer had been resting her head on, it was made from the hair of Anna's previous victims. When Anna finally woke up from her coma, she couldn't speak properly because of the brain damage, but she could write. The detectives asked her where the bodies were. Where were the 17 missing women? Anna wrote one word, sleeping. They asked where. Anna just smiled and wrote the same word again, sleeping. They never found the bodies. Anna either couldn't or wouldn't tell them more. She would just write the same word over and over, sleeping, sleeping, sleeping. Jennifer testified at the trial. Anna was sentenced to life in prison. Though with her brain damage, she barely understood what was happening. She would just sit in court, smiling, running her fingers through her own hair, pulling out strands one by one. Jennifer still works at the hospital. She still takes the night shift, but she bought a car. Even though she had to take out a loan she couldn't afford, she never takes rideshares anymore. Never. And sometimes, when she's trying to sleep, she still feels that pillow under her head, still smells the formaldehyde, still wonders about those 17 women. Are they really dead? Or are they somewhere, still sleeping, waiting for someone to find them? The FBI is still searching, still following leads, but Miami is a big city with a lot of places to hide things, a lot of warehouses, a lot of storage units, a lot of places where 17 women could be sleeping forever. Story 4, The Desert Garden. Michael Torres was 32 years old, lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and worked as a personal trainer. He was in the best shape of his life, could bench press 300 pounds, and had been practicing Krav Maga for 3 years. He thought he could handle any dangerous situation. He was wrong. July 18, 2022. It was 118 degrees in Phoenix that day. The kind of heat that makes the air shimmer and burns your lungs when you breathe. Even at 9 p.m., it was still 105 degrees. Michael had just finished training a client and was heading to his girlfriend Michelle's house across town. His car was in the shop getting the AC fixed. Because in Phoenix in July, broken AC might as well mean your car is undrivable, so he called an Uber. The driver who accepted was named Carl. When the car pulled up, Michael saw a bald, muscular guy with neck tattoos, the kind of guy who looked like he'd been to prison. But Michael wasn't one to judge by appearances. He'd been judged plenty of times for his own tattoos. Michelle's place on Camelback Road? Carl confirmed as Michael got in. Yeah, that's right, man. They started driving. Carl was chatty, talking about the heat, the Phoenix Suns, asking Michael about his tattoos. Normal conversation. Michael relaxed. Carl seemed like a good dude. About 10 minutes into the ride, Carl took an exit Michael didn't recognize. Hey man, I think you missed the exit, Michael said. Shortcut, Carl replied, Construction on the I-10. This'll save us 15 minutes easy. Michael pulled up Google Maps on his phone. It didn't show any construction on the I-10, but maybe Carl knew something Google didn't. Local knowledge and all that. 5 minutes passed, then 10. They were heading away from the city lights, out into the desert. Michael could see mountains in the distance and nothing but dark desert scrubland all around. This doesn't look right, man, Michael said, trying to keep his voice casual. Trust me, Carl said, but his voice had changed. The friendly tone was gone. Now it was flat, emotionless. Michael checked the Uber app on his phone. Something was wrong, very wrong. The app showed they were still on the original route, still on the highway in the middle of Phoenix. But looking out the window, Michael could see they were miles into the desert. The app is wrong, Michael said. We're in the middle of nowhere. Carl laughed. GPS spoofing, my friend. Very simple if you know how to code. The app shows whatever I want it to show. Your girlfriend will think you're still on your way. Uber thinks we're following the route perfectly. Michael's mouth went dry. Phoenix desert in July was no joke. People died out here all the time. What do you want? Money? I've got about 200 in my wallet. I don't want your money, Carl said. I want to show you something. Something special. Something I've been working on for years. They drove deeper into the desert. No streetlights now. No other cars. Just darkness and Joshua trees and saguaro cacti standing like giant sentinels. The mountains looked purple in the darkness. After another 20 minutes, Carl turned off onto a dirt road. They drove for another 10 minutes down the bumpy path before Carl finally stopped the car. The headlights illuminated something that made Michael's stomach turn. A shipping container. One of those big metal ones they put on cargo ships. It was half buried in the sand, rusted, with a heavy padlock on the doors. Get out, Carl said, and Michael saw he was holding a gun, a Glock 19. Michael recognized it. Michael got out. The heat hit him like a physical force even though the sun had been down for 2 hours. The desert was silent except for the ticking of the car's engine cooling. Open it, Carl ordered, throwing Michael a key. Michael unlocked the padlock and pulled open the heavy metal doors. The smell hit him immediately. Death, decay, human waste, and something else, something worse, the smell of people dying slowly. Inside the container were 3 people, 2 men and a woman. They were chained to the walls, their arms above their heads. They were skeletal, their skin burned and peeling, their lips cracked and bleeding. They were alive, but barely. My collection, Carl said proudly. See, I don't kill people. That's too quick, too easy, no artistry in it. I like to see how long they last. How long the human body can survive in this heat without water. Most people last 3 days. The record is 6. This gentleman here, he pointed at one of the men, is on day 5. I think he might break the record. The woman reached out toward Michael with one skeletal hand. Her mouth moved but no sound came out. Her eyes were pleading, desperate. That's Rebecca, Carl said casually. She requested a ride to the airport 4 days ago. Never made her flight. The airline probably thinks she just no-showed. Michael's mind was racing. He needed to escape, but they were miles from anywhere. Even if he ran, Carl had a gun, and the desert at night was full of dangers. Rattlesnakes, scorpions, mountain lions, and the heat. Even at night, without water, he wouldn't last long. Your turn, Carl said, gesturing with the gun for Michael to enter the container. Don't worry, I'll come check on you tomorrow. See how you're doing. I'm curious how long someone in your physical condition will last. Carl was standing about 6 feet away. The gun was pointed at Michael but held casually. Carl's finger not even on the trigger. Amateur mistake. Michael's Krav Maga instructor always said when someone has a gun on you from that distance, you have a chance if you move fast enough. Michael moved. He lunged forward, his left hand grabbing Carl's wrist and pushing the gun away while his right hand struck Carl's throat. The gun fired, the sound enormous in the desert silence. Michael felt the bullet pass by his ear. They fought in the sand. Carl was bigger, stronger than Michael had expected. They rolled, each trying to get control of the gun. Carl hit Michael in the face with his free hand, and Michael saw stars, but he didn't let go of the gun hand. Michael got his knee on Carl's arm and pressed down hard. Carl screamed and dropped the gun. Michael grabbed it and rolled away, coming up with the gun pointed at Carl. Carl raised his hands. Okay, you win. Take the car. The keys are in it. Just go. Michael backed toward the car, keeping the gun on Carl, but when he looked inside, there were no keys. Carl had them. Give me the keys, Michael demanded. Carl smiled. They're in my pocket. Come get them. Michael knew it was a trap. Carl probably had a knife or another gun, so Michael did something Carl didn't expect. He shot him in the leg. Carl screamed and collapsed, holding his thigh. Blood poured out between his fingers. Michael walked over and searched Carl's pockets. He found the keys, a knife like he'd expected, and a phone. He also found something else, a notebook filled with names, dates, GPS coordinates, dozens of them. Michael used Carl's own chains to secure him to the outside of the container. Then he gave water to the 3 prisoners. They cried as they drank. He told them help was coming. You can't leave me here, Carl screamed. I'll die. You'll last 3 days, Michael said. Maybe 6 if you're lucky. Michael drove back toward Phoenix. It took an hour to get signal on his phone. As soon as he had bars, he called 911. He gave them the GPS coordinates from Carl's notebook. The police found Carl still chained to the container, alive but suffering from severe dehydration and heat stroke. The gunshot wound had become infected. He lived but lost his leg. The 3 prisoners in that container survived. Barely. They spent weeks in the hospital recovering. But that wasn't the end of it. The GPS coordinates in Carl's notebook led police to 20 other containers scattered across the Arizona desert. Most contained bodies, people who had been dead for months or years, mummified by the desert heat. But 3 containers had people still alive in them. Carl had been doing this for 3 years. He would pick up lone passengers in his Uber, use GPS spoofing to make it look like he was following the route, then take them to his containers in the desert. He called it his desert garden. He would visit each container every few days to see who was still alive, taking notes on how long they lasted. The trial was a sensation. 23 victims. Carl got death row, though appeals mean he probably won't be executed for 20 years. Michael testified at the trial. He told them everything, but there's something he didn't tell them, something he's never told anyone. When he was driving back to Phoenix in Carl's car, using Carl's phone as a GPS, he saw something that still haunts him. Carl had photos on his phone, hundreds of them, photos of people in those containers, documenting their decline day by day, and at the bottom of the photo gallery, there were recent photos of new targets, people Carl had been watching, planning to grab next. One of those photos was of Michael's girlfriend, Michelle, taken outside her house. Carl had been planning to take her next. Michael deleted those photos before the police got the phone. He didn't want Michelle to know how close she had come to ending up in a container in the desert. They moved to Colorado 2 months later, somewhere cold, somewhere far from the desert. But sometimes Michael wakes up at night, sweating, feeling that desert heat, hearing the crying from those containers, and he wonders how many more Carls are out there, how many more desert gardens, how many containers they haven't found yet. The FBI is still searching the desert, still finding bones, still finding containers. If you ever take an Uber through the desert, watch the route, make sure the app matches what you see outside, And if the driver takes an unexpected turn toward the empty desert, fight. Fight like your life depends on it. Because it does. Story 5, The Driver Who Wasn't Human. Let me tell you about the most terrifying Uber story I've ever heard. This one will make you delete the app forever. I'm not kidding. After you hear what happened to Amy Chin in Portland, you'll never look at ride-sharing the same way again. Amy was 32 years old. She worked at a tech company downtown. Smart woman, always careful, the kind of person who reads reviews before buying anything, who checks everything twice, 3 times even. She had a system for everything in her life, including how she took Ubers. She always checked the license plate, always confirmed the driver's name, always shared her location with her roommate, always sat in the back right seat where she could see the driver and the road. She thought she was safe. She thought she had it all figured out. She was wrong, dead wrong. November 28th, 2022, Monday night. It had been raining for 3 days straight. That Portland rain that never stops, just keeps coming down like the sky is crying. Amy had worked late, really late. The office was empty by the time she finished her project. Even the security guard had gone home. It was 2:47 a.m. when she finally closed her laptop and decided to head home. Her car was in the shop, engine trouble, so she opened Uber like she had done hundreds of times before. The app said there was only one driver nearby. That should have been her first warning. Portland always has drivers, even at 3 in the morning, always. But she was tired, so tired she could barely keep her eyes open. She just wanted to get home. The driver's name was Kevin. His profile picture looked normal, just a regular guy, maybe 40 years old, brown hair, blue eyes, friendly smile. His rating was 4.8 stars, good enough. The car was a black Toyota Corolla, 6 minutes away. Amy waited in the lobby of her building. She watched the little car icon move closer on her phone. 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, arriving now. She saw the car pull up, black Toyota Corolla, license plate matched. Everything looked fine, normal, safe. She walked out into the rain. The driver didn't get out to open the door. That was unusual but not weird. It was raining pretty hard. She opened the back door and got in. "Amy?" the driver asked without turning around. "Yes, that's me," she said, shaking the rain off her jacket. "Perfect. Let's get you home." The car started moving. Amy put on her seatbelt and looked at her phone. 5% battery. She should have charged it at work but forgot. Another mistake. The car was warm, too warm, like the heater was on full blast even though it wasn't that cold outside. And there was a smell, sweet, like rotting fruit, or flowers that had been left in water too long. "Busy night?" Amy asked, trying to make conversation. She always talked to drivers. It made her feel safer somehow. "Very busy," Kevin said. His voice was strange, flat, like he was reading from a script. So many passengers, so many rides. Amy looked at the driver's hands on the steering wheel. They were pale, really pale, like he'd never seen sunlight. And his fingernails were long, too long for a man. They clicked against the steering wheel when he turned. "How long have you been driving tonight?" Amy asked. "All night, every night, forever." That was a weird answer. Amy laughed nervously. "Forever? That's a long shift. Time doesn't mean anything when you're driving. Only the destination matters." Amy felt uncomfortable. Something was wrong, really wrong, but she couldn't figure out what. They were on the right route. The app showed they were heading to her apartment. 15 minutes away. She could handle 15 minutes of weird conversation. But then Kevin took a turn that wasn't on the route. "Hey, I think you missed the turn," Amy said. "New route, better route, faster." Amy checked Google Maps. This wasn't faster. This was taking them away from her apartment, into an industrial area she didn't recognize. No, this is wrong. Please turn around. Can't turn around. Never turn around. Only forward. Always forward. Amy's heart started beating faster. She tried the door handle. Locked. The child locks were on. She pulled harder. Nothing. Let me out, she said, trying to keep her voice calm. Let me out right now. Not yet. Not time yet. Soon. Amy grabbed her phone to call 911. Dead. The 5% battery was gone. How? It had just been at 5% a minute ago. Electronics don't die that fast. Your phone won't work here, Kevin said. Nothing works here. We're between. Between what? Between here and there. Between now and then. Between living and dying. The windows started fogging up. Amy couldn't see outside anymore. Just white fog. Like they were driving through clouds. But that was impossible. They were in the city. On the ground. But when she wiped the window with her sleeve, all she could see outside was white. Nothing else. No buildings. No streetlights. No other cars. Just white. What's happening? Amy's voice was shaking now. Where are we? Kevin finally turned around. Amy screamed. His face was wrong. It looked like a mask. Like someone had taken human skin and stretched it over something else. Something that wasn't quite the right shape. His eyes were too far apart. His mouth was too wide. And when he smiled, she saw he had too many teeth. Way too many teeth. They went back into his throat and rose like a shark. We're going to my place, Kevin said. His voice was different now. Deeper. Like multiple voices speaking together. I've been waiting for you, Amy. Waiting so long. You don't know me, Amy whispered. I know everything about you. I've been watching. Every ride you take. Every driver you meet. I've been circling. Waiting for the right time. Tonight is the right time. Tonight you're finally alone. The car kept moving, but Amy couldn't feel the road anymore. It was like they were floating. Flying. The white outside the windows got brighter. So bright it hurt to look at. You're not real, Amy said. This isn't real. I'm dreaming. I fell asleep at work. This is a nightmare. Kevin laughed. The sound was horrible, like breaking glass mixed with screaming. Real is relative. What's real to you isn't real to me. What's real to me? Well, you're about to find out. The car suddenly stopped. Amy looked outside. They weren't in Portland anymore. They were somewhere else. Somewhere impossible. The sky was red. Dark red like blood. There were no stars. No moon. Just that red sky that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The ground was black. Not pavement. Something else. Something that moved. Writhed. Like it was alive. Welcome to my home, Kevin said. This is where I take all my special passengers. There are others? Kevin pointed outside. Amy looked and saw them. Cars. Hundreds of cars. Maybe thousands. All different makes and models. All with their lights on. All with people inside. Passengers. But they weren't moving. They were just sitting there. Frozen. Some looked fresh. Like they'd just arrived. Others looked old. Really old. Like they'd been there for years. Decades even. My collection, Kevin said proudly. Every special passenger I've ever picked up. They're all here. Forever. And now you'll join them. Amy grabbed the door handle again. Still locked. She kicked the window. It didn't break. Didn't even crack. She screamed for help, but her voice sounded muffled. Like she was underwater. Don't bother, Kevin said. Those windows aren't glass. There's something else. Something you can't break. And no one can hear you. We're not in your world anymore. What are you? Amy asked. Kevin's face shifted. The skin mask slipped a little and Amy saw something underneath. Something dark. Something that hurt to look at, like her brain couldn't process what she was seeing. "I'm a collector," Kevin said. "I collect souls, spirits, whatever you want to call them. I trap them here, feed on their fear, their despair, their hope slowly dying. It's delicious. And you, Amy, you're going to be particularly tasty. I can already feel your terror. It's wonderful." Amy closed her eyes. This couldn't be happening. It wasn't possible. She was a rational person, a scientist. She didn't believe in monsters or demons or whatever this thing was. But then she remembered something. Something her grandmother had told her when she was little. Her grandmother was from China. Very traditional, very superstitious. She always carried a small mirror in her pocket. Said it protected against evil spirits. Said they couldn't stand to see their true reflection. Amy had thought it was silly, old-world nonsense, but she still carried that mirror. Her grandmother had given it to her before she died, made her promise to always keep it with her. It was in her pocket right now. She pulled out the mirror. It was small, round, the size of a compact. The silver was tarnished with age, but the glass was still clear. She held it up toward Kevin. The reaction was immediate. Kevin screamed. That horrible breaking glass scream, but louder. The car shook. The windows cracked. And Kevin's face. His face melted. The human mask fell away completely and Amy saw what he really was. I can't describe it. I won't even try. Some things are too horrible for words. But whatever Amy saw in that moment, it changed her forever. Her hair went white, completely white, in seconds, like all the color was scared right out of it. Kevin thrashed in the driver's seat. Smoke rose from his skin. No, not skin, whatever he was made of. The car doors clicked, unlocked. Amy didn't hesitate. She threw open the door and ran. She ran into that impossible landscape. The black ground grabbed at her feet like mud, like hands. The red sky pressed down on her like weight, like pressure. She could hear Kevin behind her, not running, something else, a sound like crawling, like dragging, like something huge pulling itself across the ground. She ran past the other cars, hundreds of them. She could see the people inside. Some were beating on the windows, some were screaming. Some were just sitting there, staring at nothing. They'd given up, lost hope, been there too long. Amy kept running. The mirror was burning her hand now, getting hotter and hotter, but she didn't let go. It was the only thing protecting her, the only thing keeping Kevin away. Then she saw something ahead, a light, not red like the sky, white, pure white, like a door. A way out. She ran toward it. Kevin's screaming got louder behind her, closer. She could feel his breath on her neck, cold, so cold it burned. She reached the light and threw herself through it. She woke up on a street in Portland. Her street, outside her apartment building. It was morning. The sun was shining. The rain had stopped. Her phone was in her hand, fully charged. How was that possible? It had been dead. She checked the time. 7:23 a.m. She'd lost almost 5 hours. Where had she been? What had happened? Was it real? It couldn't be real. But her hair was white, and the mirror in her pocket was cracked, split right down the middle, and when she checked her Uber app, there was no record of her ride. No Kevin, no charge, nothing. Like it never happened. Amy went to the police. They didn't believe her. Of course they didn't. Who would believe such a crazy story? They suggested she see a doctor. Maybe she'd had a breakdown, stress from work, a hallucination, a psychotic episode. But Amy knows the truth, and she's not the only one. She started researching, looking for others with similar stories. She found them. Dozens of them, people who'd gotten into Ubers that took them somewhere else, somewhere impossible, Most never came back. The ones who did were changed. White hair, missing time, and all of them had the same description of the driver. Different names but the same face. The same wrong face. Amy doesn't take Ubers anymore. Doesn't take taxis. Doesn't even take the bus. She walks everywhere now. Even in the rain. Even when it takes hours. Because she knows Kevin is still out there. Still driving. Still collecting. And sometimes, late at night, she checks the Uber app. Not to request a ride. Just to look. And sometimes she sees him. A driver named Kevin. Or Kyle. Or Keith. Always a K name. Always the same profile picture. That normal-looking face that hides something terrible. He's always nearby. Always just a few minutes away. Waiting. Circling. Like he knows where she is. Like he's following her. And his rating is always 4. 8 stars. Always exactly 4. 8. Never higher. Never lower. Amy knows he's waiting for her to request another ride. To get back in his car. To return to that place with the red sky and the black ground. To join his collection permanently this time. She won't do it. She'll never get in another Uber as long as she lives. But she also knows the truth. A terrible truth that keeps her awake at night. Kevin isn't the only one. There are others like him. Lots of others. Driving around every city. Every town. Looking for special passengers. Looking for souls to collect. And they're getting bolder. Taking more people. The missing persons reports are increasing but nobody connects them. Nobody realizes they all took Ubers before they disappeared. Amy tried to warn people, posted about it online, but her posts get deleted. Her accounts get banned. Someone or something doesn't want the truth getting out. Doesn't want people to know what's really happening. But now you know. I've told you Amy's story. All of it. Every detail she told me. And I believe her. I've seen her white hair. I've seen the cracked mirror she still carries. I've seen the look in her eyes. The look of someone who's seen something that shouldn't exist. So the next time you're thinking about calling an Uber late at night, when you're alone, when you're tired, when you just want to get home, remember Amy's story. Remember Kevin. Remember that not all drivers are human, and not all rides end where they're supposed to. Check the driver's hands. If the fingernails are too long, cancel the ride. If the car is too warm, get out. If they say strange things about time and space, run. And always, always carry a mirror. It might just save your soul. These stories I've shared with you today, every single word is true. I know because I've met these people. I've seen the police reports. I've read the court documents. I've looked into their eyes and seen the terror that never goes away. Sarah still lives in fear, knowing her stalker is out there somewhere, learning everything about his next victim. She changes her routine every day, never takes the same route twice, never stays anywhere too long. She's alive but she's not really living. She's just surviving, running from a shadow that might not even be chasing her anymore. But she can't take that chance. Because he knew everything about her, every detail, and people like that don't just give up. They wait, they plan, they strike when you finally feel safe again. James quit driving but the ghosts followed him home. His daughter asks why Daddy checks the backseat of their car before getting in, why he won't give anyone rides anymore, not even family friends. He can't explain that sometimes he still sees that little girl with no head in his mirror. Still hears her mother's voice telling him about finding her daughter's head 20 feet from the car. Some things you can't unsee. Some voices you can't unhear. They become part of you. Change you. Break something inside that can never be fixed. Jennifer survived but 17 families are still waiting for answers. Still hoping their daughters, sisters, mothers will come home. They won't. Jennifer knows that. She saw the look in Anna's eyes during the trial, the pride, the satisfaction. Those women aren't coming back. They're somewhere only Anna knows, and she'll never tell. She'll take that secret to her grave, leave 17 families wondering forever. That's her final victory, her last act of cruelty. Michael saved 3 lives, but 20 more were never found. The desert is huge, full of secrets, full of containers with people who screamed for help until their voices gave out, until the heat took them, until they became another missing person who got into an Uber and vanished. Their phones found miles away, their bank accounts untouched, just gone, like they never existed at all. David is still out there, still driving, still trapped in a nightmare he can't escape. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he gets those pings, those special rides. He helps move things that leak, things that used to be people, someone's daughter, someone's father, someone who just wanted to get home safe. And he can't stop, can't run, can't hide, because they know where his family is, where his children go to school, where his wife works. He's a prisoner in his own car, a slave to monsters who use apps and technology to hunt, to kill, to dispose of evidence. And Amy? Amy knows the truth that nobody wants to believe, that some of the drivers aren't human at all, that there's something else, something that feeds on fear, on souls, on the moment when hope dies in someone's eyes. They're out there right now, in every city, circling, waiting, looking for their next special passenger, someone alone, someone tired, someone who won't be missed right away. These aren't just stories to scare you. These are warnings, real warnings from real people who survived things that most people don't. They want you to know what's out there, what's really happening while everyone pretends the world is safe, while we trust strangers because an app tells us to. Every time you get into an Uber, you're gambling with your life, rolling the dice. Most of the time, you'll be fine. The driver will be normal, human, safe. They'll take you where you want to go. You'll give them 5 stars, move on with your life. But sometimes you'll get the wrong driver, or the wrong passenger. Sometimes you'll become another missing person, another unsolved case, another story that people won't believe. The world is darker than you think, more dangerous than you know, and the monsters aren't hiding under your bed or in your closet anymore. They're driving around your neighborhood right now. They have apps. They have your data. They know your patterns, your routines, when you're alone, when you're vulnerable. So what can you do? How can you protect yourself? First, never ride alone if you can help it. There's safety in numbers. Predators want easy targets. Single passengers, drunk passengers, tired passengers, people who won't fight back. Second, always share your ride with someone. Let them track you. Tell them to call 911 if you don't check in. It might seem paranoid, but paranoia keeps you alive. Third, trust your instincts. That feeling in your gut that something's wrong? Listen to it. Our bodies know danger before our minds do. If something feels off, get out, cancel the ride, walk away. Better to be rude than dead. Fourth, carry protection, pepper spray, a loud alarm, anything that gives you a chance to fight back, to escape, to survive. Because when you're locked in a car with a predator, you only get one chance. Fifth, check everything. The license plate, the driver's face, the car model, everything. Don't just glance, really look. Make sure it all matches. Predators count on people being distracted, being in a hurry, not paying attention. And finally, remember these stories. Remember Sarah and Marcus. Remember James and the woman in white. Remember Jennifer and the hair pillow. Remember Michael and the desert containers. Remember David and his forced servitude. Remember Amy and the driver who wasn't human. Remember that every time you request a ride, you're trusting your life to a stranger, someone you've never met, someone you know nothing about except what an app tells you. And sometimes, that stranger isn't who they say they are. Sometimes they're not even what they appear to be. The monsters are real. They're out there, and they're waiting for you to request a ride. Stay safe, stay alert, stay alive. And whatever you do, never fall asleep in an Uber. Because you might wake up somewhere else, somewhere you can't escape from, somewhere nobody will ever find you. Or you might not wake up at all. Sweet dreams.